Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Unsafe Space. I'm Carter. This is Alex. And Keith is running. Keith will be along in a moment, and Juliet will be along in a moment. I'm not sure about Beverly. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022. Welcome to this episode of Narrative Dissonance, where we just kind of, I think I intended for it to be not casual, but it's just kind of devolved into casual stuff already. And cats are meowing and whatever. We're just having a conversation about the week's news. So welcome. Let me pull up chat. I don't even actually have chat open. I should probably do that. So welcome, everyone. Also, we are on Rumble. If you want to be watching on Rumble, we might appreciate it. But YouTube, Rumble, whatever. We are here. So Alex, you've been sick most of the week, so I'm not sure I should throw the spotlight on you right away. But
yeah,
but you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm getting better every day. Like last Friday, I missed because I thought I was just exhausted. I was asleep, like literally asleep during it from taking care of a friend who was sick, but I caught it and I've been sick for this past week. But yeah, I'm doing better. But if we were going to talk about news, I want to talk about this whole, is it a free speech issue to block live location?
That's a fine issue to talk about because I'm actually curious about because I think one area where you and I disagree, maybe not. Maybe we don't disagree, but like, I do think it's censorship, but I don't think companies censoring on their own platform is necessarily wrong, provided that the censorship is, like you want censorship of child porn, for example. Like, is that technically censorship? Like, yeah, but they have a right to do it, in fact, and should do it, and in that case, are legally obligated to do it. So, what do you think about this whole?
When it comes to the child pornography specifically, someone is physically getting hurt on that data on that. So like, I don't like, to me that's not
but they're not, but they were hurt in the past, and it's being their pain is being exploited after the fact.
Yeah. And so and there is like the question, did the person who's posting it film it in the first place or take part in it, which is just
even if they didn't, though, you still want it taken down, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, for one thing, it's like a privacy concern for the victims involved, which is, again, another like an issue separate from free speech. But then like when it comes to like, why do you need to know where someone is at this moment? Like if you don't have like a personal connection to that person, I don't think you do need to know that information. We already considered it wrong when like Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok. Like that was it, because this is how doxing usually works, is that someone does a few steps to try to hide some supposedly public information, like their legal name or whatever. And then someone goes out of their way to expose that information. And so that people could find them in the real world, really is what they're doing. And so to me, I'm sort of like, that is actually more about trying to create a system of harassment. So I'm like, I'm in that line that it's like, you don't need to do that. And like it's not, there's no free speech. Like you're not trying to make a comment on someone. You're not like
there's no argument happening that you're not allowed to make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also like someone said about the Elon Jet thing, they're trying to show off the CO2 footprint of the private jets, and it's like you can do that without showing people where someone is in real time. You
Yeah,
can
you could
do
do it.
that.
You could do it 2 hours later. Like
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter.
Or you could just
Yeah,
show their mileage that they've logged. Like
yeah,
just do a mileage tracker. Like every day they've logged this many miles on their fucking private jet. It doesn't. None of that is gonna tell people where they are. So to me, I'm sort of like, no, you're just you're using that as cover, because there's other ways of doing that commentary without showing where someone is. So in my mind, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It's censorship. I mean, but it's not a free speech issue.
yeah, yeah. I mean, from the beginning, I know a lot of conservatives made the argument that Twitter was obligated to have free speech, like, and then the leftist would say, well, private platform, they can do what they want, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the argument, and I was always actually on the side of, yes, it is a private platform. Yes, they can do what they want, and they achieved their status through fraud by saying that
Mhm.
they were going to let free speech be a thing and then not having it. So it's a fraudulent. They're in a position of having gained from lying about what they were going to do. But on top of that, there was this idea that, yeah, they can do what they can do what they want, but it's really unfair and bad for dialogue and conversation and all of us to be picking a side on these issues and enforcing it. And that's really the only that's really the only problem I've had, other than their fraud. And so I don't. To me, it's like, yeah, if they want to stop people from putting that kind of information on, like, even if it's public, but they don't want their platform used to stalk people, I don't. What's the big deal? Like, okay, no good person wants to do that anyway. Like, it's a completely, like, no person legitimately, for good, honest, like, above board reasons of, like, having healthy dialogue, needs to share real time information about anyone's location ever. Like, that's not actually necessary, and it is actually a security risk for some people. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's clearly in response to the guy that stalked Elon's son. And how can any parent look at that and go, yeah, well, you should allow that
Yeah.
on your own platform? Like, yeah, that's completely reasonable. I want Black Bloc following my son and jumping on the car roof. It's like, no, we don't want that. And it's the same reason that we don't, like, it. I don't know. It's so rich that the same people that get their panties in a twist that someone uses the wrong pronouns are like, oh my God, I can't tell everyone where Elon is on in real time. It's like, fuck you. You're not a journalist. You're a hack. Like, what the hell? And then all the mainstream was like, oh, he's banning journalists who dared challenge him. No, he's banning assholes like Keith Olbermann, who wanted to post his location real time for everyone to stalk. Like, this is what they do. The left builds mobs in real life, has them go after people, ruins their lives. They've got all of Antifa. Like, this is what they do. This is what they do. Taking steps to say, not here, not on my platform. You're not going to allow mobs of angry, crazy socialists to come after my family using my fucking platform. Like, I don't. That's not, like, I don't understand why that's controversial to anyone. Really,
I know. It
really
shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But one of my biggest problems is like they keep bringing up the old tweet where he said he wasn't going to ban Elon Jet, and they're like, oh, look what he said, and I was like, and he was stupid for saying that back then. Absolutely stupid, because it shouldn't have taken an actual incident for him to realize that was a security issue. Like, literally should not have taken his child's life becoming, at risk for him to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe people don't need to know where someone is real time. Like, it seems obvious.
Yeah, but I think it actually is first of all, he didn't promise he wasn't going to ban the guy. He bragged about not banning him. He was like, see, I have a commitment to free speech. I haven't banned him. Like that was true at the time. And like, fine. Now, granted, he changed his mind, and I agree with you. I think it was just a lack of foresight. I imagine, I mean, I don't know this, but I imagine his security detail was like, dude, I get your commitment to free speech, but you got to ban this shit. We can't deal with this. Like this is bad. You're the world's richest person. You can't like let your platform be used for this. This is a problem. You know, I guess it took an example, a real life concrete thing happening for him to realize that's a problem. But
yeah, when someone made the argument that like, oh, he shouldn't have banned them. He should just gotten more security, and it's like, no, he needs to make this a rule. He needs to make this an obvious rule. No real-time tracking information, because it can't just be someone who can afford to hire a bunch of security for him and his family to protect himself if that kind of information is being posted online. No, it should be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I just want to say something. I can't stand when midwits try and make arguments about security. It angers me so much. Security, I'm a security expert. I have been my whole life, not mostly physical security, but some. Like, security is risk analysis. It's not an on-off switch. You don't just hire more security and be like, well, problem solved. I've got some beefy guys standing around me. That's not how security works. You have to change your behavior. You reduce risk. You reduce risk anywhere you can. Everything you do is risky. And having your location data available real time on one of the largest social media platforms for anyone to see increases risk substantially. So you decrease the risk. You don't do it. That's not a smart move. Just like you might not, decide to go for a naked jog alone in a park at night. Like, yeah, sure, I guess you could do that, but it's a pretty risky thing to do. You do have to change your behavior. I know.
Yeah, like I don't like sleep with my front door open in the middle of the city.
Right.
That's high risk. And
right.
Yeah, but like I think it needs like a lot of people are like, well, he can afford it, and it's like, no, it's not about that. It needs to, because here's the thing: is that not only rich people get stopped, not only rich people get their information put out there, and not only them face a mob. We know that. We know that for a fact. So it's like, it's important that, that means anybody's real-time location or any of their private information should be protected on the platform. If that's what was already in the TOS, which, by the way, for the most part, it was, then all of us should be protected on Twitter from someone trying to, like, oh, I'm going to make an Alex of all trades location account. This would be very boring because it's going to be at home every day. But,
they know where to send the drone strike. Yeah. I mean, remember when Taylor Lorenz, I know she's had a lot of meltdowns, but she had a meltdown about doxing her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't super sympathetic to her because she had doxed other people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not because it was not wrong to dox her. It was, and that's bad. But like, it was a little bit of a taste of her own medicine. But again, she's now having this meltdown. It's like, what are you? It happened to you. You cried on television about it. Literally cried on television about it. and now you're like, how dare you bar my journalist friends from giving away your private information? It's like, or your location data. It's like, I hope that people are seeing through the mendacity of the leftist psychology here, because that's what it is. There is no excuse for these people that are trying to argue that they need to do this. There's none. There's no reasonable person looks at this and says, hey, yeah, we can't even have conversations anymore because you're banning that. Like, how do we determine whether, how many genders there are? How do we have that discussion? Because no one is saying we now can't have that discussion because we all know where Elon's jet is at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't know where Elon's jet is at the moment. It's just, it's so dishonest, and it really, I think, exposes the underlying savagery of leftist mentality. They can't argue. They don't like free speech because they can't argue. They don't want to have open discussion. They need people who they disagree with, who they don't have good arguments against, banned, and they need to be able to rally mobs at a moment's notice to go after you where you live. That's the only way they win. It's such a pathetic, weak intellectual position, and it's the position of an utter savage. And I'm just disgusted by the people defending these journalists. I'm putting journalists in quotes. I'm disgusted by these journalists, and I'm disgusted by I'm disgusted by the people defending them right now because
Barry Weiss did it. Barry Weiss is like, oh, he's banning journalists, and it's like, no, he's banning people for doxing.
Yeah, and as his new head of safety and trust or whatever said, like, yeah, journalists, the rules apply to journalists also. Like,
imagine that.
Yes.
Imagine rules that apply to everybody equally. That's a crazy thought for Twitter.
Yeah, and I want to point this out. I know Elon's rich. I can't believe people need to be reminded of this. Regardless of where you are on the conspiracy theory stack, JFK was killed by someone.
Right.
He was a rich, like, American royalty president. You can kill rich people.
Mm-hmm.
No amount of money can stop someone who is willing to sacrifice their life to kill you. So the idea that there aren't people out there who absolutely want to hurt him and his family is just moronic. I mean, there's people who want to hurt almost everyone out there. There's crazy people, and the more prominent you are, and the more hatred, the more controversial you are, the more crazy people want to do you harm. So it's a real risk. It's a real risk, right? If that guy was following his son because he thought Elon was in the car, presumably, right? But what if he had been willing to, like, run the car off the road? What if he had been willing to do something more violent than just what he did because he thought Elon was in the car? His child could be harmed or dead as a result of that kind of behavior. So,
I mean, and this could, like, even if, like, say that someone follows the jets and decides, oh, it's in my area, I'm gonna go there, and they get the wrong car. Like, it's not even anyone related to Elon, but they think it is, and then they blow it up or something, and it's like, then people die, and it's like, see, this is, even then, like, you can't give them an opportunity to think someone is a target, because even if no one of their actual intended target got hurt, someone could potentially get hurt. And we're talking about an actual imminent threat, not a like, oh my God, your words hurt me kind of threat. That's not the kind of, like, the two sides of those things. The left is like, no, you can't say the wrong pronoun. And it's like, well, no one actually gets hurt from that. We're talking about someone who might assassinate somebody.
Right. Yeah. By the way, I just, because of my libertarian / ANCAP perspective, I have to at least mention this. You realize this is only a problem because of the government, right? It's the U.S. government that makes it impossible for him to have a private plane that's actually private, right? The fact that flight data is available is the government's fault. That's what that is. It's not in a free market. He would have a private jet, and we wouldn't even know he owned the private jet necessarily if we didn't, and we wouldn't know where it is or what the hell he was doing. But because the government has their fucking hands in every goddamn thing and knows where everyone is and needs permission to do everything, they know where his jets are, and they publish that information is public. Like, it's
my understanding that Elon's jet is not public. That he actually has, like, a sanction from the FAA to have it be private. Its locations be private. That doesn't mean that the FAA doesn't have it, and that from what
I thought this whole thing was a compilation of publicly available data that this guy was compiling.
Like, if you look at the actual, like, straight up publicly available data, you don't know which jet is his. But if you combine it with a bunch of other publicly available data, and you can figure out which jet is his,
traffic
And
analysis on the okay, yeah.
yeah, so to me, I'm sort of
Okay.
like, that's like, he, like, literally the government gave him the ability, like, gave him like the special list. You get to be private because you're,
This is
you know,
our
this-
special private list. It's just as private
yeah,
as an
yeah,
email server in a bathroom. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's the problem though, is that the government doesn't do anything adequately, so someone's able to figure this out.
Right. DSM-6 is talking about what I'm referring to, which is IFF, right? He's got the planes have transponders that are required to respond to IFF, or they'll get shot out of the sky. So, you know.
Yeah,
That's the system.
DSM saying his transponder hex is published, so maybe they're hiding his N number, the plane N number, which
Right.
is normally what you can find. Yeah, it's not just the IFF. It's that's what air traffic controllers use. So that number is used by the entire U.S. air traffic control system. The radars at an airport ping the plane. It responds with data like altitude, and a
Right, but in
commercial
a free-
plane
in a
has
free
N
market, you
number
would have-
and all kinds of.
In a free market, you would have solutions that might be more expensive, but they would involve obfuscating that data or changing it regularly or whatever, and it would be
Like one of the solutions would be you would eliminate the FAA. Like that's the first solution.
That would be the first one.
That's the first
Yeah.
step. You know, that's the first step you take.
Dan says radar also detects location. Yeah, but you have to know what you're detecting, right? Radar doesn't do the interrogation on IFF.
Doesn't it just tell you something's there? Necessarily
Right.
doesn't tell
and you can tell it the shape if it's an advanced radar.
Yeah.
You might be able to tell something about the plane, but
Yeah, air traffic controllers just they call that secondary radar. They don't even use that. I mean, the only time they would use that is if the whole transponder, the ping and transponder response stuff doesn't work. And all the new systems use a GPS based that's actually reporting that long digitally with a lot of information, airspeed, all kinds of information. So yeah, and that's all in the FAA records. A lot of that is public. So I didn't even know you could hide your N number. That's the number on the side of N means it's American registered aircraft. And they all have an N number, and that's all. I thought that was all public. I didn't know there was a way to hide that unless you're like a Blackbird at 60,000 feet or.
I would
16.
guess that it has to do with security clearances because, I mean, with Siri, you can just say, "Hey Siri, what's flying above me right now?" And like she'll tell you. No, I didn't.
Really?
Yeah, no, like so I've done it before when I
knows
see
everything.
weird planes, and I'm
never
in
talked to
DC
Siri.
airspace, but every once in a while there's like a private jet, and Siri's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing flying above you right now." So there's some,
Siri's
but
gaslighting you.
yeah.
Juliet, would you take a pill, Juliet? There's no- Would you like us to order some
Like,
lithium?
here's Snapchat. Watch some TikTok. You'll be happier that
You're
way.
happier.
But so there's definitely something where certain planes are not publicly available, or unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and by the way, to be clear, I think in a free market there would be something akin to an FAA, but it would be
Right.
it would be much more dynamic and obviously voluntary associations and that kind of thing. And so when you have the government out of solutions and private market providing solutions, you end up responding to problems much more quickly. So a billionaire would come along and be like, hey, I really don't want people to know. I'm happy to like let people that are going to shoot me down know not to shoot me down, but I don't want people to know where I am. And like that solution would be forthcoming. But you know, I imagine the FAA moves about the speed of every other government agency. So I don't.
Slower.
I doubt.
Slower.
Yeah, I doubt that solution's coming anytime soon.
A significant number of the air traffic delays have been FAA. So when the COOF problems were happening, it's government. So a lot of people didn't go to work, or they told people, well, if you're not vaccinated, you can't go to work. A lot of those people are air traffic controllers. So there was lots of cases of airports having huge delays, thousands of flights delayed because the FAA wouldn't allow a perfectly healthy air traffic controller to come to work because he hasn't gotten the shots yet.
Right.
So yeah, that's the government, a private air traffic control, and they exist. There are countries that don't nationalize that.
Yeah.
So
All right,
anyway,
well-
I'll look this up. I'm curious because I didn't know it was possible to do that with even somebody like Elon Musk
To what?
to hide
there.
hide
to
your
hide
transponder information from the publicly available database for. I wonder how it works with all the new, and anybody flying into controlled airspace, even in a small plane soon, and all big planes now, have internal systems that ping the planes around them, and it reports end numbers and flight data like speed and direction, and altitude and other information, what kind of plane it is.
Yeah.
So. Like any commercial aircraft has that, so I don't understand how his plane couldn't do that and how you couldn't assemble the data. The end number is printed on the side. You can't paint that over. Anybody at the airport could see his plane taking off. I don't think it would be hard to assemble the data of where something is. Anyway, yeah, I'm curious. I'll look into that. And I am a pilot, private pilot. So I know a little bit about it. I'll check. I'm curious. That's
but circling back to the Twitter censorship thing, I mean, I just maybe even if it's not possible to actually hide this information, he has no obligation to make it easy for everyone to find on Twitter. Right?
By using the
there's
platform
a difference.
he runs.
He's paid $44 billion for a platform to dox himself. Like, I don't know that's an interesting requirement.
If somebody comes over to your house and knocks on your door and says, I need a piece of paper and a pencil and a stamp because I'm going to dox your location. Like, no, I'm not going to give him a stamp.
That's right. But you'll give him the pen and paper?
It's not. I'll give him the pen through his eyeball, maybe. No, I'm not gonna support that. And it's not a free speech issue, right? It's not. This isn't a free speech question.
Right.
They like to claim it is. Like, that's the thing, is that they use our principles whenever it suits them, and all these journalists crying foul now, and they're going, I'm free speech. He said free speech.
It's a free speech. You have to know your location, and it's probably by a guy who, when he goes out to the protest, he puts on a black mask, so you can't even see who he is when he's outside.
Right.
Well, and then Keith Olbermann, is that his name?
Yeah, he is such a garbage human.
Yes,
he really is. Like, he was literally trying to coordinate a campaign to tweet that information, with a bunch of other journalists, and that's why he got his ban.
He got banned. Yeah.
Yeah. And
they banned the jet, and then and a bunch of journalists were like, "Well, we'll make it happen anyway." It's like,
right.
He banned him according to the terms of service. You're violating the same. You're doing the same thing.
Well, and then they some of them were like, "Oh, we didn't actually post the location. We posted links to that guy's other accounts on other platforms." And Elon Musk is like, "That's still
it's in the terms of service. It says don't post links to that either. It says that."
Yeah, no, it's like you're still violating that just because you're telling people to go off platform for the data. You're still doing it. And then I saw a couple of short snippets of him talking to some of the journalists, and he was like, and he said that you can't post the address. And one of the journalists responded to him saying, "You're claiming we posted your address. We didn't post your address." And I was like, you're either really stupid or disingenuous. And it's kind of hard to tell which one it is, because he didn't say his address. He said the address, as in the address of, the accounts that send this information. So you're probably being a moron, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think they are. I know a lot of people won't necessarily agree with this, but I don't think they're dumb. I think they're almost never dumb. I think they're selectively stupid.
Yes.
And they're good at pretending that they don't understand what the hell you're talking about. And like I think someone just brought up a minute ago, they'll use, I think it was Juliet, they'll use anything. Like, the left will turn into strict constitutionalists if it's suits them in some particular moment. They're like, "Oh no, the Constitution." It's like, what? Wait, what? I didn't know you could spell Constitution. What are you talking about? Like, oh, suddenly they're strict constitution. Like, they'll switch. They'll use anything. It's there's no principles involved. They're just throwing words at you, hoping that the syllables like the pattern of the syllables will make you change your behavior. They don't care what they mean. They're just like,
No.
how about these sounds? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, maybe those sounds will work on you. Like they don't have any. There's no principles or thought behind. It's just, they're just throwing sounds at you.
Well, and like part of it has to do with the fact that like principle of free speech is, let us make jokes and arguments and share information that, doesn't dox people, publicly and everything without punishing us. And then the other principle at work here, which was the real principle at work here, was the right to self-defense. It's like, no, that both of those are important, and like when self-defense is on the line, I don't know, free speech, and I'm talking about actual physical harm, none of this stupid that hurt my feels self-defense. I'm talking about actual self-defense. Like, that is a value that sometimes supersedes the idea of anything goes free speech. And it's so weird to me that they're like, oh, this value suddenly matters more. And they like to play this game where they're like, we care about it. And I'm like, yeah, you've shown that you definitely care about it. You've been strident and 100% behind those principles this whole time. I totally buy it. And it's like, no.
Yeah. That was a juicy one.
Interesting.
That one.
And we did move on, but I looked it up if you want to see. Here's I found the process. So here's how you can block your tail number. So
Look at Keith.
So the FAA has a program. It's got two options, and you provide them some information. And this is for the thing that I referred to, the GPS. It's the newer system it's called ADSB. That's a newer GPS based. They're improving from the ping system that was like the IFF that you were talking about, Carter.
Yep.
So any commercial plane, I'm sure Elon Musk has this already. Even most small four-seater small planes have it by now. It's not a measly effect. So it's basically, I read this while you were talking. The FAA promises not to send your data. So I don't know the details of it, but anyway, it does
But it might
exist.
get leaked to the New York Times.
Yeah. It minimizes, so you can minimize public access to your ADSB data. So maybe he has minimized it.
Sure.
But apparently not enough that you can't still track it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to paint over the N number on the side of the plane.
All right. Well, I don't know what the hell Beverly's doing in chat. It seems like there's naughtiness happening, but
I didn't start it. Just it happened to be there, and then I didn't stop it.
Well, you did mention naked jogging, and everyone went off on that for quite a while.
Oh, I need a different report then if the next story is naked jogging.
No, I heard Beverly, like, it's the only time a sound escaped from her side over there. I naked jogging, and she was like, oh, she lit up.
Now I'm interested.
I'm paying attention.
No, I didn't want to interrupt. You had a whole rant going in your Santa hat, so I was waiting to like join the stream too. Though
Angry Santa, that's my new moniker.
Just thinking that's a big ball on the end of that Santa hat too. I couldn't find my Santa hat. I only had like
big
an
ball.
elf hat. I don't even know. Oh, here it is.
Oh, yeah, you're more of an elf. I'm more of a cranky Santa.
I have a Christmas hat right here too, Carter.
Oh, geez.
I'll put mine on.
Wait, what? All right. Keith, you had stuff you wanted to talk about that wasn't
all right.
Twitter and...
This is more Newsboy, so I'm going to switch back to my Stetson Newsboy cap.
I like it. Yeah, I find you more respectful.
Okay, so there's a story. This is happened Tuesday. Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, they had a roundtable on the mRNA coof shots about sudden deaths shortly after vaccines and accountability which is an interesting story. So this is the announcement from actually the DeSantis governor. It's at the .gov site. They're going to do further surveillance into sudden deaths of individuals who received the COVID-19 vaccine in Florida based on autopsy results. So they started looking at people who died suddenly, healthy people that died suddenly within a few weeks of getting a shot. That's interesting data. DeSantis filed a petition for a statewide grand jury to investigate and hold accountable. And they named individuals, including Fauci and some executives from Pfizer and Moderna.
But as Drummer 316 points out in chat, Keith, I think the deaths are climate change. That's been the science is clear.
Science is clear, yes. I actually have a story about that too, about the experts. I'll get to that in a second.
I have a quick question on this before you keep going.
Go ahead.
So I don't want to piss people off, but I'm just generally skeptical about the claims from both sides. So I did not take the vax. I did not take the shot. I'll call it vax. I didn't take the shot.
That's not allowed in these
I know. But I'm also skeptical of.
I better stop my cam. I don't want to get it.
No. I'm skeptical of people on the other side who I do see, because the mainstream shuts down criticism of, like, legitimate criticism of stuff. It means that often the only criticism available is happening in circles that are kookier than I might normally hang out in. And often they do they often do make wild, unsupported claims with anecdotal or cherry-picked data that, like, some of it may be true, right? Because I'm saying that the legitimate arguments get pushed into this domain where craziness happens. And so I don't really know. I haven't actually formed an opinion about. I hear people talk about vax deaths all the time, but I don't really know the truth about, are there actually increased deaths here overall? How's that measured? Has it been measured? Do we know there's a thing? Like, I don't know what real evidence there is other than anecdotal evidence, which I hear all the time. I hear a lot of anecdotal evidence, but with no context, I have nothing to compare it to. People are like, oh, look, athletes are dropping dead. It's like, I don't know. Have they been dropping dead in the past? And now we're just reporting on it because maybe it pushes a narrative. So how real is this?
I don't have anything to show, but the numbers, at least from available data, seem to be small. Now it's not, half the people aren't dying from the shots, right? We know that anecdotally. The number of actual deaths is difficult to get from any government data, and it's also difficult to get from the medical community. But so you have to be careful how you look at it. There's a lot of deaths with COVID. A large number of deaths attributed to COVID are actually deaths with COVID.
Right.
And so, there's plenty of stories that you can check out. Like I know of one in Florida that, a guy, he's in the information he died of COVID. He was brought to the hospital after getting bit by a shark. And they tested him when he entered the hospital, and he had COVID, and he died. So
they did that with Washington, people who got shot. There's one article.
So there's individuals like that. There's lots of those stories. So what has been put out by the government and the general medical community cuts down on the information, so we don't really know from any of that data. But there's a lot of other studies that are going on. One of the interesting pieces of data worth looking at is just excess deaths. They're just looking at, like, how many people died. So if
beyond what would have normal,
just like how many people died each year.
But this is also something we would expect because we were locked in our houses and our immune systems were depressed and we postponed medical treatment. So I would expect a bump in deaths after the lockdown gets released.
Yeah, like
and they call it excess deaths.
Yeah, JB lists that excess death data shows around 4,000 per day, more than same period 5 years ago. And they
but as I'm saying, as I said, like, that's something I would expect. Absolutely, it's something, in fact, that we predicted. Like we said at the beginning
However,
of the lockdowns, hey, you're slathering antibacterial hand gel on yourself and
Right.
never exposing yourself to anything and postponing medical treatment. Death will happen. Like, yes.
Right. I know
So-
one of the statistics they look at specifically for excess deaths, like is there a spike, is it's young healthy adults, so like 25 to 40, that age range, really
Yeah.
people don't
Shouldn't
just
be dying.
die.
The
Like it's
athletes
very
and stuff on the field.
The
Abnormal.
numbers of them on that should be really minuscule.
they've
Mhm.
spiked. So
Mhm.
something's happening.
All right,
Yeah.
that's an answer,
Mhm.
right? Like I just
Right.
don't,
Yeah.
I haven't been following.
That
So
that
what's
isn't the
hypothesis
story.
about the cause. Is there a hypothesis?
Well,
other than a
there's
vague, like, you know,
no, it's not vague. There's here's a list here of known risks. So these risks are all known, right?
well, there's the myocarditis
Coagulation
risk
disorders,
in
acute cardiac
teens.
injuries. Yeah, so this list that they're looking at, like these are known, these are all higher. Coagulation
Okay.
disorders, acute cardiac injuries, Bell's palsy, encephalitis, appendicitis, and shingles. Those are all known effects of the vaccine. The numbers
Okay.
are not clear, and I'm not reporting on that. I'm just saying something that's going on. This is an unsafe space report on the ground from Florida of what happened this week.
No, it's cool, and I'm curious about it. I
Okay.
just don't have the
I
knowledge.
think-
That's why I'm asking. Like,
I could,
and don't know
I
if
could,
everyone else-
I have a lot of stuff written down, but I don't have anything handy. It's clear that there are people dying of the shots. Also, cancers, a lot of different cancers are up. That's something happened with that.
No.
COVID itself doesn't cause cancer, right? Like it's not
right.
supposed to, at least. They're not even saying that, but why is cancer up? Several different kinds of cancer. In athletes, the data, year-to-year data, shows a large increase in healthy, elite-level athletes suddenly dying doing athletic events of heart problems.
Yeah.
So that data, so there's data just limited
There's
to
data
that
on
group.
that, and
And we
that's
know
it.
that-
Does, yeah,
that
that's
group has a high rate of vaccination because of the travel and
Mhm.
rules
The
that
requirements,
are imposed
too,
on them.
right.
to
Yeah.
to not
Mhm.
like the the tennis would have won Wimbledon and the Australian Open that refused. Like there are people refusing, but it's a small number. And if you participate in college sports, like I hear stories. I have a family member that's just graduated college. It's an elite level rower and on sculling team, and like a lot of people don't want it, and they all know people who have problems. Like that's common in college level sports, that the community at the higher level knows people who have had problems, and they all think it's weird. Nobody knows the true data because the sports leagues don't report it. Like the NDAA, you're not going to hear that out of the national level sports. The colleges don't report it. They don't want to say that.
Well, and that therein lies the issue, is because I'm with Carter. I mean, I kind of was like, all right, like we'll see for the longest time, and now at this point, those few studies coming out are indicating something's going on. But the fact that they have managed to make it impossible for anyone to get all of the data and actually look at it, to me, that's like, okay, like
Suspicious.
tinfoil hat time. Like, yeah, now I think something really bad is happening because you're actively preventing. Like, if it weren't,
They're
they'd
blocking.
be happy to show us that it's not happening. But
Right.
the fact
It's the
that
same
they're
argument I made
hiding
about
it-
elections. Like, well, why can't we do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Shutting down data. So this study, like it's a Surgeon General of Florida. This guy has been active in looking into this stuff. Like Florida is already doesn't recommend the shots for healthy children. Period. Like if you're under 18, like no. You know.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Oh yeah, they did that a while ago.
Yeah.
They're talking now about like adults up to 40 or something. Like no, it's not if you're healthy. I think they're saying 35 or 40 now. So some of the people in this panel, like these people are on this panel that's going to look into this. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, Brett Weinstein,
Yeah, I
recognize like those names are big in this. There's people from the Barrington Declaration, and so they're part of it. The grand jury thing, I was like you said, I don't know what's going to happen. They are still government. DeSantis is
Sure.
headed for DC, so there's a lot of political maneuverings here. But this is a governor of a big state and the Surgeon General calling for a grand jury to investigate Fauci, and they're going to collect new data for it. I think this is going forward. They announced in this order. Now it's one study in Germany, but they're doing autopsies on people who died unexpectedly within 20 days of the shots. And they're finding, a high number of acute arrhythmic cardiac failures. They cite this. This is in the governor's report, and they talk about how difficult it is to track. They're taking a magnifying glass to the original Pfizer and Moderna clinical trials. This is mainstream. Like you've been seeing this kind of stuff in alternate media all over the place, but this is a public announcement from the governor's office.
Yeah.
Here's
And
my
then-
thought on
Go ahead.
any kind of like medical intervention. Every medical intervention has a percentage of risk. You don't know what that percentage of risk is necessarily for newer medical interventions like this. The thing is, though, is that if you can't prove that the efficacy is higher than the risk, then there's no reason to take it. If it doesn't, if the thing you're trying to intervene for is not life threatening. So, like for
and by the way, in the case of COVID, that's very unique to the individual, depending on individuals had different risks with respect to COVID, and so for some people it might totally be worth the risk of some side effects, and for others definitely not.
Yeah, like if you're diabetic, seriously overweight, like obese, overweight, over some number, which has been slowly moving from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90. I don't know. It looks, it's looking like that number is going to keep going. So it appears to me that it's eventually going to terminate that where that risk versus reward rollover is when you're dead. Like if you're already dead, then it's okay.
You're dead, you should take it.
But it's getting pretty close. Like it might be 80s. If you're healthy and 80, I would advise don't take it. You're not if you're not obese, you're not a smoker, you're not diabetic. So anyway, I had a couple other things.
If you have healthy heart.
Healthy heart. If you eat okay, exercise okay, don't smoke. So it's also in mainstream press. This is just a an NBC local news channel in Florida that reported on it. Same kind of story, although because it's the news. It's a national news network. They kind of couch it a lot in this report. So this is actually the first place I saw it that I went and found the governors. Then the next thing I was going to say is about the experts. So you want to know what the experts are saying? Okay, so here's another report.
Yeah, I always care about what the experts are saying.
The experts express confusion and concern about this new study.
I'm not, I'm confused by that because I didn't think experts could be confused.
Right.
Yeah, so here's Dissonance and the Florida Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, who's also, not to go into this, but you can see people, sometimes you see people couching the rabid leftist. He's a black dude. But he's not on the left at all.
Well, then he ain't black.
He ain't black,
as we've been told. Yes.
Did he? Yeah. If he didn't vote for Biden, it's not
my president says.
guy, but
well,
there
he's
he is.
not an expert because he doesn't agree with the other experts. Suddenly,
Yeah, he's not even. Well, he's not the expert they're talking about here.
Keith, you freaked out DSM-6.
DSM 6.5. He needs to move up to DSM 7. Anyway, I think I highlighted something here. Let me find it. I'm so upset.
Like, a good nickname for most of the left.
DSM 6. DSM Nix.
It's their secret cabal. We're being run by a secret cabal of people called DSM 6.
So here's just a quote from one guy. "I'm so upset," said Dr. Frederick Southwick, an infectious disease specialist, a member of the Committee to Protect Healthcare.
Why are his feelings news?
Well, he's an expert. They went. NBC went and found some.
I'm an expert, and I have the feels.
It's about the small risk of myocarditis and why this study. Why they have concerns about the study. So anyway, yeah, he's so upset. He's a specialist. I like this. I haven't looked this up, but what's the Committee to Protect Healthcare? Like, that sounds like an insider. They're trying to protect the doctors who lied and didn't disclose the risks. I guess that's what it is. It says it's a progressive advocacy group.
Yeah,
What's
progressive means, garbage.
And NBC was willing. Like, this is what NBC was willing to say about it. So it's got to be pretty bad. So
Whenever you hear the word this is just for the Christians out there, which I know aren't all of you, but just progressive means satanic. Just swap it in your head.
Okay, let's replace that with Satan.
So it's the Committee to Protect Healthcare, a satanic advocacy group. Oh, I understand. Yeah, like that makes sense.
And this is in the Orlando Sentinel, so it's an NBC affiliate in Orlando, which is just like every other big city. Like,
Wait,
I know,
read the rest of
I
his
talk about
statement, though,
Florida
because he starts by saying, "I'm so upset." Keep reading, because then his next
so
thing is like,
the expert said.
Then he says, "Keep going,
every infectious disease doctor and epidemiologist is taken aback. It's just really, really frustrating." That's what
what is this?
It's really frustrating.
Sometimes I imagine these people with PhDs. I guess it's MDs. Do you have to defend your MD? Is there like a thesis for an MD, or no? Is it just pass tests and go do? I
think if you've injected sufficient people with the experiment, you're experimental, then you don't have to do the defense.
I wonder how this works. Like, you're taking your OChem test, and you're like, I'm upset by this and frustrated.
So they cited facts. So their facts are that 40 million people in England, there was a 0.007% myocarditis rate. That's like the lowest number I've ever seen related to 40 million. Like, the German study was for 35 people and they found 4. So yeah, that number's slightly different.
Wait. If let's say, did they look at 40 million people who were currently alive?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, how many people are
already
in
dead? We don't
in
need
England?
Okay.
This heart's all small. It's small and dried out. That's not inflation of the heart.
Did they died of myocarditis? Do they not count?
Yeah,
They don't count anymore. They're already
There's
dead.
56 million people in England. So, and they only counted people over 13. So all of England is that's what that means.
This is a study of all of England published in
Yeah.
September. So that's a lot of phone calls.
Answer.
That's a lot of records to check. Then they said the U.S. So they went to the other definitive source for proof, the CDC, were the people that were promoting the vaccine for the last 3 years. They said that there were 7 million mRNA vaccines in the U.S. administered, and there were 224 confirmed myocarditis.
Wait, a couple people in chat have talked about that not being jabbed makes you a bad driver. Is that a thing? That's a
that was
a study.
That's
another
study. Headline recently. Yeah, not that
Wait,
more likely to be in an accident.
Yeah. I think
You're more likely to be in an accident if you weren't jabbed.
Because you don't care about public safety and general.
No, it's because you have a car and you're not on public transportation.
Yeah.
Of course, you're more likely to be in an accident. You have a car. Jesus, you're not on the fucking bus.
The Bill Burr thing. It was like, I'm more likely to drown in my backyard if I have a pool.
Yeah. Statistically, you are less likely to die in a car accident if you're dead. I'll check that if you want. I'll get the numbers. But and then the other source they looked up was Pfizer. They went for a statement from Pfizer's spokeswoman. So Pfizer said the COVID vaccines have saved hundreds of thousands
Our
of
products
lives.
are excellent, said the spokeswoman.
And they saved tens of billions of dollars in healthcare costs.
Which seems like the opposite of what a pharmaceutical company would want, because they like money.
Tens of billions of dollars.
And it would be going to them mostly. So
it's like, let's find out if cigarettes kill people. Let's ask the tobacco industry. Let's go talk to a spokesperson from Marlboro. Do they kill people? No, no.
This is the healthiest you will ever be if you smoke them.
You're alive, and the other thing Pfizer said is that the shots, they enabled people worldwide to go about their lives more freely.
Oh my god.
The ones that are still alive.
Because the government wouldn't let them go about their lives freely. This is from Elvac, who hasn't been around in a while. Hey, Elvac. He says, I looked at the unvaxxed. I looked up that the unvaxxed are in more accidents. They literally oversampled the shit out of the unvaccinated people with dementia.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Of course.
Science. It's science.
It's the science. You know what? By the way, you also hear the left, you know how I talked about like they'll use the Constitution? You also hear them sometimes say, well, correlation is not causation. But it is in like every single other case where they want to make anything like, for anything else they want, correlation is causation. But when you find some correlation they don't like, they're like, well, it's not causation. Don't be stupid.
Right.
That's true. So yeah. So more people died. Then the next question is why? Well, the average temperature of the Earth changed 0.05 degrees. That's one possibility. The other possibility is like a couple billion people got an experimental mRNA. That's another thing that happened.
You're right. It's climate change.
Right.
Well, clearly.
Right. Hillary Clinton's whereabouts were unaccounted for a few days. There's that.
Oh.
She went on a spree.
What is the numbers on suicide with COVID?
Yeah.
Right. The driving
people who haven't taken the vaccine tends to die in cells without cameras that are functioning.
I mean, it is true now that the majority of people in the hospital for COVID are fully vaccinated. Like that's true.
Yeah, but you would expect that.
They're going to
most
the
people
hospital.
are vaccinated. Yeah.
By rate too. It's also by rate. It's not just total. So.
Oh, really?
By rate, yes.
No.
I don't think
and it's
most
more likely to
people-
get. If you want to anecdotally, like I happen to know in the last month, I've known 5 or 6 people locally that got COVID. They were all older people. They're fully vaccinated and boosted, and they never had COVID. And they're sick, and they're hiding inside.
You don't think most people what,
They're
Julia?
local.
I was gonna say I don't think most people, like at least in the younger age groups, are not actually fully vaccinated. It fully means boosted.
All the boosters that you need to get.
Death.
People give up.
I know, like at the beginning of the school year in LA, the LA Times wrote a big article like, oh my gosh, only 13% of young adults have had their latest booster. And like, well, that's interesting because that means a lot of people are just not doing it anymore.
There's only
I've heard
13%
a lot
of
of
the parents
people
are
say
abusive.
that. That like they're like, oh, I got 3 fucking shots, and
It's good enough.
And like you guys are saying keep doing it. I'm like, and like a lot of people do have a limit. Like our limit was a lot lower, but like
0.
Yeah.
but like, yeah, exactly. But like some people have like they're like, oh yeah, this is fine, and then they're like, wait a minute, wait, what? How many times? Like, and,
Julia. Oh, sorry.
and then especially recent data was all like, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't actually stop transmission or infection. Well, fuck it. Why am I still doing this?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And now they're admitting it too. They're finally
Right.
So all the friends that are like, oh, like you don't have it yet, and they're pushing for it. And once they finally like admitted, oh, it doesn't actually stop, even though we already knew that beforehand, but it's publicly like, oh, it's not stopping the transmission. So now they're all like, oh, we want to hang out again.
Yeah.
They're going to start doing
people-
COVID parties like they did chickenpox parties when I was a kid. Chickenpox.
Yeah.
And you see Fauci on TV. He just said, "Well, we always known that it didn't stop transmission. It just reduces
But no
your-"
one else.
Really?
in the
'Cause that's
hearing
not what you
know
always
that.
said.
Yeah,
You
same
lied.
thing. Yeah.
You said the opposite.
You always do that, huh?
Julia,
If
did
you
you
go-
ever get COVID?
I had it in September of 2020, so like before
okay.
the vaccines came out.
Okay.
Oh.
I
Am I
didn't
the
get
only
it
one
until
until now?
this month.
Yeah.
Oh,
I still
I
haven't
know.
gotten it.
Yeah.
I mean,
When did
I
you
mean,
have it,
it's
Beverly? You had
very-
it in
I
July.
I never know. My
Okay.
boyfriend had it, and then my body
never got
rejected it. It cramped for a couple of days, and it was like, nope. And then, and I took care of him for 2 weeks. He was in bed. He was bedridden for 2 weeks,
Aw.
like 102-degree fever. I was
Wow.
there all the time,
Oh.
like right up in there. But my body
I
was
think you
just
should be
like,
selling an ebook about your diet. Like, this is what I ate to not get COVID.
I was just telling Alex, and I told Juliet last Friday about how I ate pie that fell on the ground over Thanksgiving.
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
It
yeah, the
was,
pie.
yes.
Oh
And so
god.
you just eat a bunch of food that's like ground food, builds up
Ground food.
immunity.
Yeah,
Should put
that
you
10
up, you
second
can
rule will
donate
kill
your
you.
blood.
You gotta let it go. Yeah.
Donate your blood. It'll put you up
Yeah.
on a farm like a stud horse.
Oh yeah.
That's
So
for a different show.
You can go to the, yeah, we'll combine that with the naked jogging show.
Yeah.
So the and you can go to the science.
The Unsafe
himself,
Space
right?
OnlyFans account will be opening next week. Sorry.
Our Instagram page will explode.
Floor pie, ground pie. Yeah, the pie fell out. The door swung and hit it on my elbow, and it just flipped in slow motion. And and then I put it back in the pan. I took it home, and I said I was going to give it to the chickens, and I ended up eating a good amount of it. It's so good.
So we can close out this discussion by just reporting on the science himself.
Okay.
Fauci, right? So Fauci, you would think, like, does he know how to avoid COVID? No, he just had it. So he's had two. He had the 2 shots, and then
I assume he
was
fully boosted. Yeah.
He's got 2
Yeah.
boosters, and he had 2 shots, and he was recently on Face the Nation, reporting that he just had COVID, but he said that he was certain that it prevented him from getting sicker than he would have.
Oh, it would have been so much worse,
Would have been
right?
Yeah.
sicker,
I'm
Yeah.
sure he's very grateful
what
for
they-
the
yeah, yeah.
vaccine.
Fauci does not know how to avoid getting COVID. So you got that.
I'm just
I
waiting.
lasted longer than him.
Yeah. I'm waiting
Yeah. Yeah.
for-
Many of us did, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
the science to come out and be like, guess what? We've transitioned from it being a pandemic to it just being an endemic disease, which means that it's around to stay. We're all going to catch
Yeah.
it occasionally. And,
Get over it.
you know, clearly at this point it is. It's not going to just go away. It's going
If only there were some reasonable people that said that earlier, Juliet.
But if you,
Yeah,
if you don't
really.
test for it though, you'll probably just think I have a flu. I've got like one of the many different flus, but like people are going to keep testing for it, and then like
Oh no! Like COVID is the reason that now everyone's like, when you get sick, they're like, "What do you have?" A cold. Like
I want to look up
I
all
don't
the
know.
different types of colds and flus there are though, and just hear say. But again, if you don't get sick,
Rhinovirus.
I won't even get to you guys. Anyone else who gets more sick than I do, because I don't know the last time I got sick. So
Oh my gosh, are you
Can you do it?
unbreakable?
that's what I was saying before in Discord, where I was like, I didn't get it. Like, I'm immortal. I can do anything.
Have you ever been sick in your life?
Not in years. Not
It's
like,
amazing.
but okay, I have to go. I have to go cover
It's the
some
floor
sort of
pie.
family fun night at the Early Childhood Learning Center. It's Candyland themed. So I'm
Oh,
gonna go take
exciting.
pictures
well,
for
make sure
that.
there's drag queens reading stories to children there.
I have to go
Right.
take a
If
nap.
there aren't
Oh
at
my
least
gosh.
9 drag queens there, I'll be disappointed. So 12 drag queens for the 12 days of Christmas.
There you go.
There's got to be
Wow.
12 sets of pronouns. You could totally make a song.
Yeah.
Out of
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye,
And I'll
Beverly.
see Alex
Bye.
and Juliet tonight. Maybe if Alex is feeling well enough,
Maybe.
10:30 Eastern
All right.
on Rumble. Bye.
Now, here's a little thing about Fauci. Just so he was vaccinated, double boosted, and he got infected. So Fauci said the antibodies from his vaccination, double boosting, were not enough to prevent me from getting infected. No shit, Fauci. But he said it's
That's the
very
sign.
likely. I wanted to get the exact
Science.
quote because I remember what he said. He said it's very likely that the vaccination and double boosting I had protected me from getting a severe outcome. It just makes sense to put a mask on.
Wow.
No, it
This
doesn't.
is and Fauci, Fauci's, maybe we should include this, that he's just requested through the White House 10 billion of additional funded for COVID. He said it needed right now. So Fauci said, we really do need that money. First of all, the Congress has been very, very generous, giving a lot, emphasis in the original, of money for COVID. That is true, and we're very grateful for that. Yeah, I'm sure he is. But we do need more right now for any of a number of reasons. And Fauci on Face the Nation, he provided the number one reason, one of which is a practical thing of outreach and PSA campaigns to get people to be vaccinated.
I thought everybody already was, right?
Is,
like they keep working on vaccinating people, and yet they've been telling us like you're the only people that are not already vaccinated.
Yeah.
So this was Face the Nation. So I'm
if we
hoping
hadn't done the
Fauci-
rain dance, the drought would have been much worse, Keith.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Bye, Alex.
Bye.
And Alex is out.
Oh, Alex is out now, and it's we're an hour in. So
Yeah, I know. But
Anyway,
before we
yes.
leave, I want to play something.
Okay.
Go do your thing, Keith. While I'm
this?
finding it.
I don't know,
Yeah, whatever you're gonna say
while
while
you're
I'm
getting
finding
ready. Well, I'm just gonna point out this. I could do a shameless plug for an article I wrote. But anyway, this is November 27th. So Fauci was on Face the Nation, and I, out of like total amusement, I listened to it several times all the way through. It's not that long, and I transcribed it, the highlights. So this article is the highlights. So Fauci, and this is November 27th, right, of this year. This is 2 weeks ago. Margaret Brennan. So he said the COVID panic continues. The pandemic continues. We have an ongoing public health emergency. You need to keep up with your vaccines and boosters for COVID. But for RSV, you have to rely on hand washing because Fauci doesn't have a vaccination. This is about Christmas. So yeah, Christmas is coming up. Carter has his hat on. So Fauci says we need testing. Like you can't safely gather together with your family.
Oh my God.
So Fauci, this is a quote. Test
this
yourself.
This is a magic
before
COVID defeating hat.
Fauci said, test yourself before you congregate people, particularly when you're having someone over for dinner. 5, 10, 15? Ooh, 15 people? Yeah, everybody needs to be tested before going to... So the hospital system for pediatrics is at the point of almost being overwhelmed. This is from the pandemic.
This sounds like instructions for a poorly run orgy.
I had to listen to this like 3 times, and after I wrote it, I like went back and listened to it again because the stuff is astounding. Like I thought people already knew this. This is 2 weeks ago. So Margaret, the host, says, "So you think we're in the worst of it?" Fauci says, "I hope so. I hope so. I think so. But you never want to be overconfident."
Unless you're telling people that the vaccine works 100%. Then you could be overconfident.
So he said the schools need to be closed. Schools may need to be closed after the holiday gathering, but that'll depend on the disease in each region. He wasn't dictating all schools, but he was warning some regions in the U.S. because of the holiday gatherings, they're going to have to close the schools again. He had COVID. It just makes sense to put a mask on. That's a direct quote. November 27th, 2022. Margaret Brennan says, "You're making the case for vaccination?" Like even she's wondering when she says, she's starting to think, I think. Fauci says, "I'm totally making a case for vaccination." And then he cracks up. He starts laughing. And then you really want to keep your boosters. Then he says, I'm sorry to laughing. I had to stop writing. I was laughing. Fauci is hoping to get down to a COVID booster cadence. He called it a cadence, like how fast you do on a stair stepper. Of once for a year, and the reason she asked why, and he says there's a neatness to that. Yeah,
there's a neatness.
Neatness. That was his reason. There's a neatness to that, and he said, but for 2023, we may need a spring booster as well as the fall booster. We definitely need a fall booster for 2023, and then they requested $10 billion more funding.
Can you imagine if this was a real disease? I don't mean that it doesn't exist. I just mean like Ebola, but transmissible. Like, right. Can you imagine if it was like a real zombie apocalypse thing? What would yeah.
And I didn't pick the pictures in here, but like on Cover DC, they found this one of him on Face the Nation with like a good smirk. He was like smiling and laughing the whole time. He was obviously amused by the whole thing. Here's another quote.
Well, I mean, it's propelled the guy into the spotlight. I mean, he's famous in a way he would never have been.
He's already the highest paid employee of the federal government. Like he makes more than the president.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
well,
that's what giving out almost $1 trillion
fairness.
over your career.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
one more quote, then I'll stop. Fauci said, "The big unknown, which is mandated or controlled by a part of the immune system, that's not that easy to measure when you draw blood." So my conclusion is that the CDC and Fauci, like, they have a problem because the congressional mandates have not been followed completely by the human immune system.
Damn human immune system.
That's what he's
it's always-
saying. I think that's what
I
that
think
is.
so.
I think that's what that says.
So he's
Anyway, yeah,
retiring to. I assume he'll be on the board of Pfizer or something. I don't know. Isn't that what you
he
do?
said in what he's going to do. She asked him that he's going to step aside. Brennan, she quoted Fauci from an earlier interview when she was asking him this. He said he plans to leave government office, but he isn't saying what he will do to stick to ethical guidelines. That could be interpreted several ways.
Why start now? I mean,
that's what he said. But
yeah.
his statement was that, as far as when he would be comfortable retiring, not until COVID is in the rear view mirror, when COVID doesn't dominate the mental framework of our society.
Says the man attempting
God.
to make it dominate the mental framework of our society.
Making sure it's all anyone can think about still. Yeah.
He's still, well, he's saying it is. Like, he's still waiting for it not to be
He's on
dominating.
a soapbox with like a loudspeaker screaming about COVID, going, "Stop screaming about COVID." I'm like, well, that will be you.
And here the three of us are talking about it.
Well, we're talking about him, though.
Oh, we are talking about him. It's not dominating my mental frame.
Not at all.
No.
I thought he was already retired. I saw him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it. I had it in the Omicron days when it was like real. It was really good.
Wait, the Omicron days were the easy days, right?
Oh, they were. Oh, you had it.
Didn't I have it over the summer?
Not compared to now. Now it's like it's not as bad as the flu for most people.
Oh,
now.
Really? Now it's even easier.
Yeah, the strains now are. Yeah.
Shockingly, it did the thing that viruses do, and it mutated to be more contagious and less severe because viruses want to infect other people.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
It's very odd. Very odd.
They don't do well killing the host.
It's shocking, really.
Yeah.
That's not a successful strategy for a virus.
No.
Yeah. Well, but you can engineer that. If you had like a lab, for example,
what are you talking about?
In another country, like if you had a lab and you were able to isolate a virus and maybe make some changes to it, you could probably get it to do that. I mean,
in theory, yeah.
Yeah. All right, wait. I have to play this because I don't. Maybe we'll get demonetized, but who cares at this point? Did you guys ever watch the X-Files?
Yes.
I know what it is.
X-Files.
I know what it is.
I used to love it in like the 90s or whenever it was around.
I think it was in the 90s. Yeah. No, I didn't watch
Great
that.
TV.
My house got hit by lightning or in the late 80s, I think, and it killed we had the VCR and the TV. And I got another TV 2 years ago.
Remember you telling me about that?
Yeah, I just got another TV. So yeah, I actually own my second TV. So the first one I bought at the RCA family store. It was the first TV I ever saw with a remote control. It had the optical. It was a Color Track 2000 13-inch. And then I actually didn't buy the one I have now. Somebody gave it to me because they got a better one. So yeah, I've only bought one TV. But I got a flat panel now. So we've been like binge watching.
Oh, he's got a lot to catch up on.
But no, I didn't see
X-Files.
Awesome. I didn't see
it was
TV
awesome.
that decade.
It was like for people who like to flirt with conspiracy theories, it was a great show. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
They did a reboot recently, which sucked. I think I watched like 2 episodes and I couldn't stomach it. It was so bad. But I apparently missed an episode because let me show you this. This was, I don't remember when this was made. Hold on, let me see if. Well, it's pre-COVID, but I don't remember what it. So it's 4 minutes long. Let me know if you can't hear it. I'm gonna play it.
I'll give you a thumbs up if I can hear it.
Tad O'Malley has been making claims.
Claims about what?
You and everyone you know has a piece of DNA in your genome. Put there without your knowing it.
Put there by whom?
Well, that's the question of the day.
This is an internet lunatic. You're not saying you believe him.
Just hold on, Agent Einstein. You're talking to a scientist.
Forgive me, Assistant Director. It may sound insensitive, but the suggestion is pure science fiction.
What I'm saying, Agent Einstein, is that the facts, as I understand them, cannot be discounted out of hand.
No one has the right or the ability to tamper with your DNA.
Unless we gave them that ability.
You say they're tampering with our DNA, that they're able to shut down our immune systems by the addition of something to our DNA,
Yes, but I don't know how exactly.
or how it's being triggered,
I don't know that either.
or why it's happening now.
What can we possibly do?
We need to act quickly.
You were right about that.
Well, I was wrong about the science. I was wrong about what's causing it. Dead wrong, in fact.
But it's clearly a widespread failure of our immune systems.
Through gene tampering. A virus within a virus that was put there through the smallpox vaccine. It's what these men are calling the Spartan virus.
We have to figure this out. What's wrong with the science?
Okay. The Spartan virus removes the adenosine deaminase gene from your DNA. Removes the ADA gene and your immune system will simply vanish.
Yeah, but I'm not getting sick.
It's only a matter of time.
Okay. So how does it work? How does the virus remove the ADA gene?
A process called CRISPR-Cas.
CRISPR-Cas9, RNA and a protein cutting genes at exact locations.
Exactly. But in this instance, used as a weapon.
The ultimate weapon. The ability to depopulate the planet. To kill everyone but the chosen.
By tampering with their DNA.
Through gene editing.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
An invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in 47.
What?
Wow. Wow.
That's
how did they know?
crazy.
Greg the baritone said he just watched an X-Files episode yesterday, and Judson Pinson said, my cousin watched it. He thought it was a documentary.
Yeah, I mean, whoever wrote that episode was the most based writer in Hollywood. What?
What date
Yeah.
was that episode?
You know what? I don't know. I found it. It was Kim.com retweeted it, but it came from Liberty Lens.
Mhm.
Let me look for the. I don't see.
Can you send the link?
Oh,
Post the link?
2018.
Holy
2018.
cow.
Yeah. Here. I'll post the link to I'll post a link to the tweet.
Okay.
Yeah. Isn't that
Okay.
amazing?
That is wild, actually.
I know. I feel like if I don't think they could make that episode now because everyone would be like, that's just
No.
Alex Jones level stuff. But that was only 4 years ago.
Well, it's like the V for Vendetta Day. I'm blanking. November 6th, 5th of November.
5th of November. Mhm.
Yeah, it was the first time in like memory that none of the major channels played V for Vendetta on that day. Usually you could like be sure they were gonna have it on at like 8
Ah.
o'clock at night. None of them did. And I was like, well, isn't that interesting?
Hmm. We wanted you to overthrow the government when we weren't sure that we were in charge. But
When it seemed
now,
like a sci-fi, we kind of was
Yeah.
okay. It's not anymore.
let's play a movie about
should.
compliance. Does China have anything we can translate?
Yeah, it's V for Vendetta is a documentary.
That's right.
Yeah, the 5th of November. There's a good
Maybe that
mnemonic to
let's-
remember that, Juliet.
Remember the 5th
Remember,
of November.
the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason to
The gunpowder treason should ever be forgotten. Yeah.
should
Oh,
ever
nice.
ever be forgot.
Speaking of not forgetting things, happy Boston Tea Party Day, everybody.
Oh yes,
Boston
it
Tea
is
Party Day,
249
yeah.
years. 249 years ago.
A
And
bunch
what
of
is
colonists said,
Very
tax
good.
this. Threw it in the
Yeah.
harbor.
it? Very good. Taps this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peaceful protest. And Wednesday, I think Wednesday was the anniversary of the state that finally signed the when the Bill of Rights took effect.
Mm.
It was Wednesday.
Oh,
It was
really?
this week. Yeah, that was
Oh,
this week.
okay, cool.
Nice.
Cool. I didn't that one. I
Another
didn't know.
another weekly anniversary. 236 years or something.
Wow. Wait, it must be more.
200
Oh, maybe
and-
not. Well, how far away were the Tea Party and the Declaration of Independence? Weren't that far apart, and we're at 249.
15 or 20 years, something like 15 years at least.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah. It was
I don't
December 15th, 1791. The
And
Tea
then-
Party. The Tea Party
So
was,
it was that far
before
apart. Yeah,
was
yeah.
before Lexington and Concord, right? It was.
Yeah, you're right.
It was,
you're right.
It was which was 1775.
Yeah, I think the Tea Party was
I think it was
73.
73.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both for joining. Is there anything else we need to do before we can end it? No.
No.
No, I
But
got the link.
did you
Copy
already
the link?
plug book club?
I didn't. You want
Okay.
to?
Book Club, January 8th. National Divorce, and you got the printed version, which is very cool.
I'm such I can only read on paper. I hate digital reading.
I'm with you, Julia. I
So,
don't like
yeah.
digital reading either. Yeah.
But
Um,
it's nice and thin. So if you haven't started yet, you have time.
Yep. Irreconcilable
Tom Woods is
Differences.
great.
January 8th. What's it called? National Divorce by Tom Woods.
National Divorce.
Alrighty.
Yep.
I'll get started. Have a good week, everyone. I don't even know if we're doing a show next week because I might want to take the week. Isn't it like
It's
close to
like
Christmas
the
next?
couple days before Christmas.
couple-
Yeah.
yeah. I think
I don't know. We
Saturday's
might.
Christmas
If
Eve.
we don't be mad.
Yeah.
But have a great holiday. Have a great Christmas if we don't see you all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not available
you,
next
we'll
week.
see
I'm
you.
only going to be probably a quarter way through the X-Files episode by then.
Yeah. All right. Later, everyone.
All right,
Okay,
bye.
Bye. This production was made possible through the generous support of our members. To join our community, visit unsafespace.com. Unsafe Space is an online publication for individualists interested in subverting authoritarianism and ushering in the next enlightenment. For biting analysis and nourishing composition, or to sign up for our weekly news brief, The Abstract, visit unsafespace.com. Thanks for joining us today.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized for distribution on Apple devices. The following co-conspirators are hereby uninvited to Klaus Schwab's winter solstice party. Please be advised that CBS News has paused activity on Unsafe Space while it continues to assess security. Central bank digital currency is a safe and secure way to protect you from Sam Bankman-Fried. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is misinformation. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.